Welcome back to Shaw Sports Talk, everybody. On today's episode, we're going to dive into the return of college football. Then we're going to look at Tommy Fleetwood capturing his first ever win on the PGA Tour. And then finally, we're going to recap the last weekend of preseason NFL football. Let's go. Okay, first things first. The college football season is finally back, and I'm sure as hell fired up about it. And in the first game back, we got to watch a Big 12 showdown. We got to watch the 17th ranked Kansas State Wildcats take on the 22nd ranked Iowa State Cyclones. Let's break it down. Listen, when you get two teams as even as Iowa State and Kansas State playing in the season opener, it's almost impossible to pick. But I went ahead and picked Iowa State to win this game, and my reason was very simple. Head coach Matt Campbell. Now, when it comes to season openers for college football, of course there's going to be some sloppiness. You're going to see some turnovers. You're going to see some mistakes. That's just part of the game. But I truly think if you want to tell if a head coach is good or not, you got to watch that season opener. You have to watch this team's season opener. Because if that team's overly sloppy, they're committing stupid mistakes, they're turning the ball over, then you know that coach didn't get his men ready for battle all offseason. But if they come in, yes, they're going to make a few mistakes, but if they come in, sharpen up quickly, execute the offense, execute the defense, they don't have any stupid penalties, then you know that head coach did a great job. Now, I got a good story when it comes to a coach getting their guys prepared for a season opener. I remember when I was a sophomore or junior at Ohio State, the University of Florida played the University of Miami in the college football season opener. Well, anyway, after that game, Coach Ryan Day brought us all into the team meeting to make us watch some highlights from that game. And what he showed us was this. He showed us guys making dumb mistakes, dumb penalties. He showed us guys turning the ball over, guys missing tackle. Overall, just guys not doing their job. And as we're watching this, he's ripping us. He's ripping us like we're the ones out there making the mistakes. You can't do this, blah, blah, blah. You can't do that. This is going to get us beat. This is how you lose a season opener. And he was just going on and on and on. And you could tell he was so urgent to get us prepared for that season opener and just so worried that we were going to go out there and be sloppy and just not play up to par that he was really honing in on us and getting on us after watching that game. And me knowing and understanding who Matt Campbell is, I think he's one of the best college football coaches in the game. And he's turned down big-time NFL offers. He's turned down big-time college program offers to stay at Iowa State. He's as good as it gets. And I just thought coming into this game, he was going to have his men prepare for battle the best. Now, getting into the game, when this thing got started, it was a little weird because all my life growing up, I was always watching Iowa State versus Kansas State and Farmageddon late in the season. I mean, last time I watched them, Will Howard was the quarterback for Kansas State, and they were playing in about 6 inches of snow. So seeing them start off the season was a little weird. And it being in Ireland, listen, it's a great place, I'm sure, but the weather's horrible. I just don't like it. I have the season opener in freaking the United States of America, but that's just me. Looking at the first half of that game, that was one of the most sloppy halves of football I've ever seen in my life. And I know I just said that you can expect this, but man, that was really over the top. I mean, you had Kansas State in that first quarter, you had Kansas State running back Dylan Edwards, who's a great player, by the way, but he muffs the punt, Iowa State recovers. Then Iowa State gets the ball, gets down to the 1 yard line, and the quarterback, Rocco Beck, who, man, he really impressed me, and we're going to get to him later, but he fires off a cannon of a pitch. They do a toss play, and he fires a rocket at the running back, hits the running back in the helmet. Ball ends up on the ground. Kansas State recovers. Both teams in that first half had 2 turnovers apiece, and Kansas State had the muff punt. I mean, just a really, really sloppy half when it comes to turnovers. Besides the sloppy turnovers, there were some other things I noticed in that first half. First, with Iowa State, they didn't look like they knew what a run game was. I mean, that run game was non-existent in that first half, and they just couldn't get it going. But on the flip side, the pass game looked good, and Rocco Beck got off to a solid start. I mean, that passing touchdown in the first half was absolutely beautiful. He dropped that ball right into the bucket, and he hit a slot fade for a touchdown. Now, let me drop some knowledge from a player standpoint. Whenever you see a team get into the high red zone, meaning the 20 to the 25-yard line, whenever you see an offense get into that territory and you see the 2 receiver, meaning the slot receiver, on the line of scrimmage, on the ball, and the 1 receiver off the ball, off the line of scrimmage, if you're a DB, you have to expect that 2 receiver is going to run a slot fade. What does Iowa State do? They get into that territory, the 2 receivers on the ball, the 1 receiver's off the ball. They run the slot fade. DB gets beat outside. Freaking Beck puts it right into the bucket. Touchdown.
Kansas State rushes 5. Beck throwing to the end zone. And it's caught for a touchdown. Dominic Overbeat able to haul it in. The first score of 2025.
And it's going to be Wesley Fair just gets beat. Good shell inside by Overbeat and a dime.
While Rocco Becht was slinging that rock in the first half, the Iowa State offensive line certainly struggled to protect them. And I have to shout this guy out. The defensive end for Kansas State, number 44, Toby Asensami. Sorry if I messed up your name, but man, you were balling. He had 2 sacks on the day, and he was just creating pressure all game long. And then on top of that, the Kansas State defense really dialed up some clever pressures. I mean, we saw a lot of corner blitzes that got home. We saw some TE stunts. For those who don't know, that's when the defensive tackle goes out, the defensive end comes underneath, and those were getting home. They were just finding really creative ways to create pressure on Rocco Becht all game long, and Iowa State did not do a good job protecting them, and definitely not a good job in that first half. Now, when this game first got started, Kansas State offensively looked absolutely atrocious. I mean, the passing game was non-existent, and the run game wasn't much better. But then they did a play that really got them some momentum. They had Jace Brown, standout receiver, Jace Brown, take a direct snap. He takes the direct snap. He sweeps to the left. He fakes a reverse to Avery Johnson, quarterback Avery Johnson running behind him. And then he goes on to get an explosive gain. And this really got the offense moving and got the gears turning.
With Jace Brown taking the direct snap, faking the pitch to the quarterback, Avery Johnson, and taking off past the 40. And Brown thrown out of bounds at the 30.
And then on top of this, they got Avery Johnson going in the run game. I mean, that quarterback run game really started to pick up, really started to ramp up, and Kansas State was able to move the ball and score early in the second quarter to tie this game up at 7-7. And this first half will go on to end 7-7.
And Johnson will keep it himself, and Johnson heads for the end zone. Touchdown, K-State.
When both of these teams came out for the second half, they came out way sharper and they fixed their mistakes. I mean, in the first half, Kansas State couldn't throw the ball to save their life, and they get the passing game going. And then Iowa State, on the flip side, they didn't have a running game. I mean, that run game was non-existent, but they come out and they get the running game going. So they fixed their mistakes. They come out, they play a way more clean second half, no turnovers, and now we're just locked into a good old-fashioned football game. Most of this third quarter was back and forth football, and we were gridlocked at 7 apiece. But then Iowa State goes on an 11-play, 67-yard drive, and it's capped off by an absolute beautiful pass from quarterback Rocco Becht to wide receiver Brett Eskelson. I mean, this thing was a beautiful drop in the bucket.
Beck hoists it deep into the end zone. Caught.
And what I loved about this the most is that Kansas State brought pressure. You remember how I said that both teams fix their mistakes in halftime? Well, this was one of them. Kansas State was getting home on a lot of these pressures. Well, they send a pressure. Iowa State picks it up. Rocco Becht, he moves, he manipulates the pocket very well, and then delivers a freaking bomb like I just said. And that was the best part about that play right there. It wasn't the pass, it wasn't the catch, but it was the protection, picking up the pressure by Kansas State. After this drive by Iowa State is when this game really started to heat up, because Kansas State goes right down the field and hits an explosive for a touchdown. Receiver Jace Brown, who really stood out to me, runs a double move. Safety's in off man-to-man coverage. He takes his eyes off his man, looks at the quarterback, which is a big no-no, and by the time he looks back at the man, the receiver's 5 yards past him. Avery Johnson finds him, hits him, touchdown Kansas State. This thing's knotted up 14-14.
Pumps, looks deep, got a receiver, Jace Brown, walks into the end zone.
The game was locked up at 14-14 for a little bit. Then Iowa State breaks through and gets a field goal, goes up 17-14. Now, next, this is where the game was decided, in my opinion. There's about 8 minutes left. It's 4th and 1. Kansas State has the ball on their own 29-yard line, and they decide to go for it. I don't mind them going for it. Some people said they should have punted, but I love the coach being aggressive, and I love him going for it. With that being said, there's only one thing I hate more than passing the ball on 4th and 1, and that's an outside sweep or an outside run play. When I see a coach call an outside sweep or an outside run play on 4th and 1, it literally makes my skin crawl. You have Avery Johnson, who's a big physical runner for a quarterback. Get him going vertical. Get him going north and south. Just run a blast or something. Run a quarterback sneak with them or something. Don't do a quarterback sweep. Well, that's what they do. They run the quarterback sweep. Iowa State stuffs it. They go down. They score. They're up by 10, 24-14.
They do snap it to him. He will keep it, and it is close.
With a 10-point lead with 6 minutes left, you're thinking this game might be over. But Iowa State does the one thing they can't do. They blow a coverage and they give up another explosive touchdown, and Kansas State scores. Now it's a 3-point game with plenty of time left. Iowa State responds to this by putting together a beautiful drive. I mean, they go right down the field, they kill a whole bunch of time, and they get in a 4th and 3 situation with 2.5 minutes to go in the game. They got a decision to make. They're up by 3 points. If they kick the field goal, they go up 6. But this still gives Kansas State hope of driving the field, scoring a last-second touchdown, and winning by a point. Or they go for it, they get the first down, they can kill the rest of the clock, and this game's over. And what does Matt Campbell do? He has his Cyclones go for it, which I love. And here's what he does. 4th and 3, you can run the ball, probably not. There was a 4th and 3 a couple years ago. This just flashed in my mind. I'm going to say it was Ohio State versus Penn State, and Penn State did like an inside zone. This was years ago, like 7, 8 years ago. They do an inside zone like 4th and 4, 4th and 5. It was one of the worst play calls of all time. So luckily Iowa State doesn't do this. They draw up a nice little man beater. They do a pick play. They get the running back out in the flat. Beck hits him perfect. He gets the first down, gets down to the 1-yard line, and this game is done.
Bring pressure, and here they come against Beck, who lobs it, caught. Hansen got the first down. Hansen still going. Dive.
Iowa State goes on to win this thing 24-21. And a fun fact for you guys, Iowa State and Kansas State have the most one-score games in like the last 20 years or something like that than out of any other two teams. I mean, every time these two play, it always comes down to the wire. They're so evenly matched. This game was so evenly matched. It came down to fourth down conversions and just overall execution. Iowa State gets it done. Okay, next, there's 2 more college football games I want to hit on real quickly before moving on to some NFL preseason stuff. First up, I'm going to look at Stanford versus Hawaii. Now, for those who don't know, because I certainly didn't, Stanford's head coach is former Indianapolis Colts head coach Frank Wright. And now, Frank also played at the University of Maryland back in the day, where he led one of the biggest college football comebacks of all time. And he also played for the Buffalo Bills, where he led one of the biggest NFL comebacks of all time. So Stanford has a real deal head coach. Now, on top of Stanford bringing in Frank as their head coach, they also brought in his former quarterback, former NFL legend Andrew Luck, to be the general manager. So with Andrew Luck as a general manager and Frank Wright as a head coach, man, I had a lot of hopes for Stanford coming into this season. But unfortunately for Frank Wright and Andrew Luck, their era gets off to a really, really rough start. The Stanford Cardinals head out to the middle of the Pacific, go to the University of Hawaii and drop an egg, and they lose 23-20. And to make matters worse for the Stanford Cardinals, they got beat by a walk-off field goal. And the kicker that did him in was a kicker from Japan. And the reason he found out about field goal kicking was he was in Japan, he was watching YouTube, he was watching the NFL game, and he liked the idea of kicking field goals. So he goes to the University of Hawaii, tries out, makes a team. He's kicking field goals for Hawaii now. And what does he do in his first game? He hits a game winner against the Stanford Cardinals. Now, we've seen a lot of teams in the past struggle to go to Hawaii. I mean, UCLA, who wasn't great last year, but they started off with Hawaii at Hawaii last season, and they looked awful too. It's just a really tough place. You know, there's a huge time zone difference, even coming from California, so it's not easy to go over there and win. But with that being said, if you were the Stanford Cardinals, you had to find a way to win that game. But luckily for them, there's plenty of season left. They can get back on track, and let's see what happens with them from here on out. And the last game I'm going to hit on this week is UNLV versus Idaho State. UNLV squeaks by and wins 38-31. Now, there's 2 reasons I bring up this game. Because the person who scored the game winner for UNLV was Alex Orji, who was a quarterback at the University of Michigan last year when I played him when I was with USC. And the second reason I bring this up is because the head coach at UNLV is head coach Dan Mullins. I used to be a big-time Gators fan growing up, so I know all about Coach Mullins when he was with the University of Florida. So his debut as a head coach for UNLV gets started. Alex Orji's debut as a player at UNLV gets started, and they squeak by to beat Idaho State 38-31. Now, I was going to break up college football in the preseason with a golf segment in the middle, but to me, since we're rolling with football, let's just stay on the football page. So let's dive in and recap the final weekend of the NFL preseason. Okay, first off, let's dive into the hot topic all preseason long, the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation. Okay, so the Cleveland Browns played the Los Angeles Rams in their final preseason game this past weekend. And they went ahead and they started Joe Flacco, and he was 9 of 10 with 71 yards and a touchdown. And I know there was a lot of debate of why would they start Joe Flacco? They know what they have in Joe Flacco. They should have just let Gabriel and Shador ride it out. And to me, I don't mind Stefanski playing Flacco. listen, I think everybody needs to get live reps before the season starts. I think Stefanski probably feels the same way. He wants to see where Joe Flacco is with live reps. There's no problem with that. And he goes out, he does this thing, and proves that he can still play at a high level. And next, running with the twos, they went with Dillon Gabriel. Now, last weekend, I said I loved them because of one drive and one play. When they were playing Philly, they got the ball with about a minute and a half left in the first half, and Dillon Gabriel drives his team down. He hits a beautiful dagger route. I talked about this last week. Hits a beautiful dagger route, catches it, team gets in field goal position, and he gets points for his offense. Well, what does he do this weekend? He gets in another 2-minute situation at the end of the first half, and he goes right down the field, puts together a beautiful drive, and caps it off with a touchdown. So last weekend, he gets 3 for his offense in a 2-minute situation, and this weekend, he gets 7 for his offense in a 2-minute situation. And what a lot of people may not understand, because I didn't understand this growing up until I started playing at a high level and got to college and played at Ohio State and played at USC, is just how important situational football is. I mean, these coaches emphasize situational football in meetings and in practice more than anything else. When you look at the results of these games and how they were decided, especially in the NFL, what a lot of it comes down to is which team executed in situational football. Which team executed a 2-minute drive to end the half. Which team executed a 2-minute drive to end the game. And typically, the teams who can execute in these situations are the teams that you're going to see win the games. And Dillon Gabriel had 2 opportunities to show he can execute in these situations. And what does he do? He goes 2 for 2, 100%. Gets a field goal, and gets a touchdown. And that's probably why the coaches love him over there. That's why the fans are going to love him. And that's probably why he's quarterback number 2 right now. Okay, moving on to the Golden Boy, Shedeur Sanders. Listen, nobody's as high on Shedeur Sanders as me. I love Shedeur Sanders. I think he's a great player. I think he's going to be a great quarterback in the NFL. But he did struggle this past weekend. Some of the things were his fault. Some of the things weren't his fault. Now, it is important to note, when looking at Shedeur Sanders' performance from this past weekend, 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen blocking for him were cut the day after. And also coming out of the weekend, the hot topic, the hot discussion was, oh, they put Shedeur Sanders with the threes. They set him up for failure. Now, there's truth to both sides of this. When you're playing with 4 offensive linemen who can't block and get cut the next day, and when you're playing with some receivers who are struggling to get open, of course you're not going to look great, and of course you're going to struggle a little bit. But there were some things that Shedeur Sanders could have controlled and could have done better. So like I said, there's truths to both sides. He didn't have a great cast around him, but he could have done stuff way better. Moving forward, Shedeur Sanders really needs to get 1, 2, 3 thrown away in his mind, because he does hold on to the ball for a really long time. And coming out of college, the biggest knock on him was he holds on to the ball and he takes dumb sacks. And I defended this because I said, listen, when things break down, he's looking to make a play. He's looking to extend the play. He keeps his eyes down the field. And 90% of the time, he does do something on the move, finds an open receiver, hits him, and it's really great. But in the NFL, that's not going to work too much. So it's 1, 2, 3. He's got to throw it away. Not 1, 2, 3. Let me try to extend 4, 5, 6, 7. Now you're getting sacked. And we saw a lot of that in this preseason game against the Rams.
Sanders being pressured, spins away again, keeping the play alive. The fans love it, but that's one of those plays where...
Now, do I think he was set up to fail by Stefanski or the Cleveland Browns or the NFL? No, absolutely not. That's where you're slated right now. Flacco, they wanted to get him reps. I see no problem with it. Gabriel, he played last weekend. You didn't, and he did a good job. He's running with the 2s. Yes, you're going to go with the 3s, and let's see what you can do with lesser guys around you. Let's see how they probably were just really to see how he was acting, looking at his attitude, looking at his mindset, because there's a lot of questions on that as well. So more than anything, they were probably just looking at that. But moving forward, Shedeur Sanders is going to be just fine. Dillon Gabriel is going to be just fine. Joe Flacco is on his way out. I mean, both those guys are going to have wonderful NFL careers moving forward. Alrighty, let's shift our focus from Shedeur Sanders to his brother Shilo Sanders. It was a tough weekend for the Sanders family. We saw Shedeur struggle and get hit a lot like we just talked about, but then we saw Shilo Sanders playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get booted out of his preseason game against the Buffalo Bills. And when you look at the play he got booted on, it was real simple. Whenever you're covering a man and you think it's a pass play, and then you realize it's a run play, and the guy transitions from running a route to blocking, they can catch you off guard. And that's exactly what happened to Shilo Sanders. He thought he was in coverage. Next thing you know, he's got a big tight end putting his hands on him and getting after him a little bit. And this pissed him off. I've been in that situation plenty of times. It pisses you off as well. You think it's kind of like they sneaked you a little bit. They snuck you a little bit. And it just triggers something in you. And your immediate reaction is you want to beat the hell out of the guy. But listen, you can't do that, especially when you're fighting for a job, you're fighting for a roster spot, and you're playing in the National Football League. It just can't happen. But Shilo Sanders does it. He punches the guy right in the helmet, gets kicked out of the game, and unfortunately for him, this would cost him in a major way. Because after the game, head coach Todd Bowles talked about how it's unacceptable, and it won't fly in this league, and it won't fly with his team. And the very next day, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers cut Shilo Sanders.
Right there. And a shove back.
That's not going to be good.
For either.
When it comes to play-wise, just like I am for Shedeur Sanders, I'm the same way for Shilo Sanders. I really like how he plays the game of football, and I like how he approaches it. I mean, he's a fearless guy. He always gives his effort out there. I don't really see him loafing. But once again, he does do some dumb stuff, and this is another example of it. But moving forward, I do think he's going to get picked up by a team, and he's going to get another shot somewhere. And I think he can stick around in the NFL for a long period of time. I really do. He might have to be on the practice squad for a little bit here, and then he'll kind of make a team later down the road. But I think ultimately in the end, Shilo Sanders is going to find a home, and he's going to stick around for a very long time because he does play the game the right way. Okay, moving forward. Now, last week on the show, I talked about two rookie running backs that really impressed me. First off, Travion Henderson from the New England Patriots, and second, Ashton Jeanty from the Las Vegas Raiders. But I have to add a third rookie running back because this dude looks unbelievable. And I'm talking about Miami Dolphins running back Ollie Gordon. When you talk about Ollie Gordon, I mean, this dude gets me really, really fired up for multiple reasons. First, I have no idea how a guy like that slipped into the 6th round, especially after all the production he had at Oklahoma State. This is your classic example of NFL scouts just overanalyzing. I mean, this dude is 6'1". He can run. He can pass block. He's elusive. He can move laterally. He can freaking catch the ball out of the backfield. He's everything you want your running back to be. And he's shown that all preseason and all camp. In his last preseason game against the Jags, 8 carries, 43 yards. Now, moving forward, A-Chain, the starting running back for the Dolphins, is battling a right calf injury. So what does this mean? That means that when week 1 of the regular season rolls around, Ollie Gordon's going to get reps. And they're going to get him going early and often. And I'm telling you right now, this guy's going to be the steal of the draft. No doubt about it. Now, moving down to Dallas, Texas, another guy I've been impressed with. I'm talking about quarterback Joe Milton. Now, a couple days ago, I listened to a video by Tom Brady talking about how the mental development and just overall development of quarterbacks has died today. He doesn't think these quarterbacks are being developed the right way. Well, I think Joe Milton is being developed the right way down in Dallas. He's sitting behind Dak Prescott. They're getting him reps early and often. I mean, this is what I thought the Colts should have been doing with Anthony Richardson. I don't know how they thought Anthony Richardson was going to be their franchise quarterback or their starting quarterback. They should have picked him in the later rounds, first off, and should have sat him behind a couple guys and just had him learn and just getting better and getting better and getting better. Because that's exactly what we're seeing with Joe Milton. There hasn't been too much pressure on him. He's just out there. He's getting his reps. He's practicing. He's playing in these preseason games, and he's developing. He's developing. He's developing. He's developing. I mean, every time he takes the field, he looks like he's getting better and better and better. And if he keeps trending this way, Joe Milton's going to have a good career, and he's going to be a starting quarterback one day. Two final thoughts. First, the Washington Commanders. I mean, they've looked freaking abysmal all preseason. And I know it's just preseason, but at the end of the day, you can't look that terrible and expect to turn it around when the regular season comes rolling around. It just doesn't work like that. And I said months ago, I said they need to get Terry McLaurin back ASAP. Not for what he brings on the field, but what he brings off the field. This guy is an ultimate leader, and he's one of the big reasons that culture kind of shifted from being one of the biggest losing cultures in the NFL to a somewhat winning culture. I mean, Terry McLaurin is an ultimate leader, and luckily for them, they get him back. They get a deal done because today he just signed a 3-year, $96 million contract extension. So Terry McLaurin's back. His leadership is back. Let's see if the Commanders can start trending up because, man, they looked really bad this preseason. And then finally, I ended with them last weekend, and I'm going to end with them this weekend. I'm talking about Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears. He has that offense looking great. They put up a lot of points. Caleb Williams looked good again. And I said last weekend, and I'm going to say it again, if Ben Johnson can unlock the full potential of Caleb Williams, that Chicago Bears team is going to be a threat. Now, there's one other thing I want to bring up when it comes to the Chicago Bears. I saw a video clip of the Miami Dolphins player talking about how they were fake tough. The Chicago Bears were fake tough. They came down for this joint practice and they were too physical. They were being physical and all that, but they don't want to do that when the game rolls around. If I was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins and I heard one of my players talking about a team being fake physical, fake tough, or being too physical, whatever the hell he was saying, I would cut him. Right then and there. And if he was a superstar, I would cut him even faster because he's got influence on my team. So Miami needs to get that figured out. But I love Ben Johnson. I love what he's potentially got with Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. Let's keep an eye on him. And for today's final segment, we got a third time's the charm situation. Tommy Fleetwood captures his first ever win on the PGA Tour. When you look at some of these guys' career on the PGA Tour, you won't find a more successful but more frustrating career than Tommy Fleetwood's. I mean, coming into this past week, he had 44 top 10 finishes and 30 top 5 finishes. But what he didn't have was a single victory. And this season alone, Tommy had two of the most heartbreaking finishes I've ever seen on the tour. Earlier this year at the Travelers Championship, this guy was playing great and he was leading all tournament long. We got the Championship Sunday. He led through 17 holes the Championship Sunday. And going into the 18th hole, he had a one-stroke lead. But what does he do? He bogeys that hole, and then Keegan Bradley birdies that hole and wins, and that's his first heartbreaking loss of the season. And then again, just a couple weeks ago at the FedEx Cup St. Jude, this guy was playing phenomenal. He's leading all week. We get the Championship Sunday. There's 3 holes left. He's up by 2 strokes, and he totally falls apart, and he finishes in 3rd place in that tournament. So he had 2 heartbreaking finishes and 2 really considered big-time chokes. And then this past weekend, Tommy finds himself in an eerily similar position. This guy comes in, he's balling all week long at the Tour Championship. He's tearing up the East Lake Golf Course, and coming in the Championship Sunday, he was sitting at the top of the leaderboard. And the question everybody asking was, will the third time be a charm, or will Tommy fall apart again, and will he choke this thing away? And I swear to you, as this final round was taking place, Tommy Fleetwood didn't pick his eyes up off the ground the entire time. I mean, this dude was super serious, super locked in. He looked really stressed out and really intense. I mean, the whole time, he's staring at the ground with a straight face. He didn't look at anyone calling his names. I don't even think he looked at his caddy. He just looked down the entire time, and he didn't pick his head up until he hit that final putt on the 18th hole. And when this man finally did pick up his head, he was a champion. He had finally gotten over the hump and captured his first ever PGA Tour win. And it came on his 164th start. And honestly, this was the best tournament anybody could have won. Since he won this Tour Championship, he got $10 million and he won the FedEx Cup Championship for season-long play. I mean, this was the one to cash in on, and he did. And my favorite part about this whole thing came at the very end of the event when Tommy Fleetwood was getting interviewed. They asked him a question. They asked him, what does it feel like to finally be a PGA winner? And this is how he answered. He said, I've always been a PGA winner. I've always been a champion. And they said, well, what do you mean? He goes, in my mind, I've always been a PGA winner. I always knew that this was coming. It was just a matter of when, not if. And then after that, he just kind of went on to talk about how all those near misses, how all those losses shaped who he is today, and how he learned from the mistakes, and how it made him better, and how going through that pain, going through that fire, made him the person he is today. And he really showed you what it takes mentally to win on the PGA Tour. I mean, it is a grind. It is as pressure stakes as pressure can get. And Tommy Fleetwood finally gets over that hump, and I'm just so pumped for him. It couldn't have happened to a better person. Now, for those who don't watch golf closely, you probably still know the name Scottie Scheffler, and you're probably asking, well, where was he at? And the truth is, he was right there in the mix to win this thing coming in the Championship Sunday. But the fact of the matter is, Scottie just didn't have his best stuff this week, and he was really inconsistent, which is crazy for me to say because Scottie Scheffler has made a living off being consistent, and he's one of the most consistent golfers we've ever seen. All week long, he was just doing uncharacteristic stuff. I mean, on round 3, he bogeyed the first and bogeyed the second. This guy was going like 36 hole stretches, 37 hole stretches without bogeying, and he bogeys the first 2 holes on round 3. Then on Championship Sunday, at the opening tee box, he sends the ball out of bounds, which is, you never see him do that, and bogeys that opening hole on Championship Sunday. But as the round got going, Scotty started to get back to his old ways, and he was really starting to dominate, and it looked like he was going to take over and make a push for that top spot. I mean, he goes on a string of birdies. He's right there. He gets to the 14th hole, birdies the 14th hole, and when he birdied that 14th hole, it looked like, okay, he's got this thing in the bag. He's going to overtake Fleetwood at that top spot, and he's going to win this thing. But he goes to the 15th hole, which is a par 3 with, it's like an island green, nothing but water. And what does he do? Another uncharacteristic move. He puts it in the water, and that's what kind of killed his day and put the nail in the coffin and really dropped him out of this thing.
Well, if that line's accurate, it's wet.
Even though it wasn't Scotty Scheffler's day or Scotty Scheffler's tournament, he still dominated on the grand scheme of things. I mean, it was his 21st round shooting in the 60s, and it was his 14th time in a row finishing in the top 8. Just showing exactly how consistent this guy really is on the grand scheme of things, and showing that he's still the world's best golfer by far. And that concludes our episode for this week. From here moving forward, the events are only going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger as college football is back, as the NFL is back, and some of these UFC events coming up. So make sure you do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Like this video, then go and subscribe to my channel to stay up to date with the most recent sporting events.